All right, hey y'all, welcome back to yet another episode of the Unframe of Mind show. I'm Daniel, as usual.
I'm the crazy guy waving his hand.
Crazy guy waving his hand. All right, and today we actually have a special guest by the name of Alex Spenser. Alex is a life coach and motivational speaker. She studied at the Texas A&M University and recently led a women's march in her small hometown. Also, as far as I can tell, we have a online radio show called Words with Wings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
I'll say yes.
Yeah, and we'll make sure we get you some good links for you guys to check her out. If you like what you hear on today's episode, definitely be sure to head on over there and thank her for coming on and deciding to spend time with a couple squirrely guys such as ourselves. So welcome to the show, Miss Alex.
Thank you.
All right.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to jump right into things, one of the things you mentioned is the fact that you had led a women's march, and that was the one that happened in March back a couple months ago, yes?
Yes, I led the Women's March on Washington, Klamath Falls edition.
Awesome. Now, I was really kind of curious because I see how big of an event that ended up being. I was curious on your part, what kind of work was actually involved in getting that organized?
Well, for us, it ended up being very, very quick and it was fairly impromptu. And we have a liberal dinner group, and all of these people were on their way to Portland or Ashland. And so I'm in Oregon, and I'm right on the border of Oregon and California. Like I'm 20 miles away from California.
Ooh, nice.
And
it's about as West Coast as West Coast gets, isn't it?
It is, except I'm not on the coast. So I'm across the mountain range. I'm on the other side. So it's not. It gets a lot of snow, and we're high desert, and it's like 4,500 feet.
That sounds awesome.
It's
either way.
really, really beautiful. Yeah, it's gorgeous. And we got one morning. I stepped out to about 2 feet of snow, and that was the most since I've been here. I've been here about 7 years.
That reminds me of back in South Dakota. I used to live in near Rapid City in South Dakota, and yeah, the snow is what I miss the most.
I know, right? And I had never, I don't know. I know Lee's from Tennessee. Where are you from, Daniel?
I was born in Indiana and moved to South Dakota, grew up there, and ended up graduating high school in Wichita, Kansas. And now I'm here in Tennessee sitting next to Lee.
Oh, so you are in Tennessee now.
Yeah, sure am. But I do miss the snow.
Well, I had never seen enough snow to ski on until I was like 48 years old. So
wow.
This is a complete new world for me. And I've learned to downhill ski and cross country ski, and I wear the right clothes, which is awesome. It turns out that the right clothes are very similar to the right clothes in New York City, so that's good. I already
you were already prepared, weren't you? So how did you just decide that all right, I'm going to be the organizer of this women march, or did somebody approach you and ask you to do it? And
well, what I said, I'm in a big group of liberals. I mean, as big as it gets for Klamath Falls. And actually, it's gotten bigger since the march. It's doubled or tripled in size.
Oh,
but
wow.
anyway, everyone was going, and it was icy and snowy and awful. And I had planned to go to Portland, and I had a place to stay and everything. But getting there just wasn't flowing, and I'm all about the flow. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to stay home, and I'm going to walk across the bridge in solidarity with you guys. And I stood up. I was trying to get out of there early. And I stood up and I said, I'm going to walk across the bridge with you guys. And they go, what are you going to do? And the Women's March at Klamath Falls was born. And by the time I left that room, we had a very scattered plan. And that was Wednesday night. And I got called to be interviewed for the newspaper on Thursday. And then there was an article on Friday morning. And from that, we had about 300 people show up. And this is Klamath Falls. We're talking 20,000 in
that's a pretty good
Klamath Falls
turnout for a population of that size, for sure.
It is fantastic. And more so because not only did people come out with their children and their dogs and in wheelchairs being pushed through the ice and snow, but they were taking their lives in their hands. We are a very conservative community, or so one would think. And yet all these people came out, and they're very, there are the flags fly here, and they don't mean Southern pride. And it's a scary place to be if you think outside of any conservative box. So they were, but it was low-key enough and planned quickly enough that we had very, very few protesters. Mostly people were supporting us. And since then, it has just, been amazing, the turning out of people. And what can I do? What can I do to make a difference? Because obviously things have gone awry. And the people who
that is true.
were once avid Trump supporters and who voted that way, a lot of them are saying, oh my, this can't happen anymore. And so what are we going to do to make it better? So that's where we come in.
So overall, the march was pretty peaceful. You didn't have a lot of battling groups or anything like that. It didn't look anything like UC Berkeley, I wouldn't imagine.
No. Well, Berkeley was probably, I don't know, since there's so much media attention there. But it was very peaceful. I put out a call for all of the signs and banners to be positive. We were not against anything. We were for women, for healthcare, for autonomy. We were for peace, and that's where I come from. That's what I'm all about.
I think your march was a little bit different than most of the ones that were televised. Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Especially what we've run into around here.
It depends on what parts were televised. Yeah. Well, if it bleeds, it leads, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Part of what we ran into, I actually went to the Donald Trump rally, the post-election rally, or post. Oh, actually, he was already president. They had he came down here to Nashville to visit.
It was him tooting his own horn, is what it was.
Yeah. So I went down to that to check it out, kind of see what was going on, and it seemed like it was peaceful overall, but it seemed like the protesters that were there, the anti-Trump folks that were there, were more interested in shouting everybody down and not really trying to. There wasn't a whole lot of like what you said. It was, yours was a this is what we're for type meeting versus what I saw there was very
this is what we're against.
We're attacking, and it's the whole vibe I can imagine was way different.
Right. I would expect that, and especially at a Trump rally where, we have come to expect Trump rallies to be anger fests. And, all Trump did all through the primaries and through all of it was, incite riot. And so, yeah, you're going to have a little backlash from that. That's my guess. So you get what you put out.
I was curious, for the, this is kind of a two-part question, but for this march, what do you view was the goals of the march for the group, and then maybe if you could talk about what were the goals for you personally?
Well, the goals for the march, given that it was really while it was an offshoot of the Women's March, and that we just wanted to step out and say we want a different world for our children and a different world for ourselves than what was being promoted as the new president was coming into office. And so we were up there to say what we wanted and what we needed. And for my part of it, I am all about creating peace now. And I really feel like we have an opportunity here in all of this. And I'm now associated with the Indivisible Group here in Oregon. And I don't know if you know about the Indivisible Group, but it's basically a grassroots campaign that took on the tenets of the Tea Party and how the Tea Party made such a difference in Obama's era. And we basically do what they did. But I had a small Indivisible Group that's now merging with another Indivisible Group here in town. And we have basically had a calling campaign. We would have calls to action where people would make phone calls to our representatives and say either, wow, you're doing a great job, or we need your support on this. And mostly lately, obviously, it's been about healthcare. And there are so many people afraid of losing their healthcare and losing their, their lives. And that's a huge issue right now. And it's a huge issue across political boundaries. And that is my goal, is to create a language that talks to everybody, that everybody can understand, that everybody can get behind, and really be in this world together, because we now do live in a world society, and it's time to recognize it and to start accepting everyone. And the moment we accept people, and I really think that tolerance is not the way to go about it, because no one wants to be tolerated. I'm not going to tolerate the conservative party line. I'm going to accept who they are, where they are now, or where anyone is. I hate any kind of separation is division. Saying that a conservative is different than me is dividing us, and that's not okay. And so I really feel like if we were to bring back conversation across the dinner table, where we actually talked about the issues of the world, actually talked about religion and politics and everything, then we would find that we're a lot closer together than as far apart as we all seem to be.
That's a beautiful concept. It really is. I enjoyed hearing that.
Now, I am curious because it seems like you said, I don't think people are much different than what we tend to think we are, as far as general ideologies and all these divisions between different groups and things like that. And I almost wonder.
Well, we've had plenty of videos on there where people just want to constantly put labels on themselves to define themselves.
Yeah, which labels aren't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if you fought for a certain label and you want to be associated with a certain label, and you know exactly what it stands for, and it could have its place, but it's when other groups come in and try to divide those people, and set them as enemies to each other. And I guess exactly. I guess what the question was, regardless of which side of the issues you're on, it definitely seems like there's something wrong out there, that there's some kind of fear driving everyone. And I was curious, what are some of the biggest fears that are driving you right now?
I'm not really driven by fear. I'm driven by possibility. I don't see, I kind of liken it to camping. I'm newly really good at camping. Okay. And I actually go with my cat, and we go to the beach once a year while my daughter is at sleepaway camp. And I just got to the point that I can sleep in a tent by myself. And for me, that was fear. If I can do that, everything else is easy. So everything else is possibility. I can see how we can come together. I can see how close we really are, and how close we are to peace. And I think that the reason that we feel like it's unattainable is because we haven't really seen it. And unfortunately, because we really haven't seen war. We ship war off. you know, and we just have to take care of the poor people who come back broken from that. And broken they are, whether we see it or not. PTSD is a real thing, you know, and we're going to start seeing more and more fibromyalgia showing up in men because so many men have been overseas fighting. And fibromyalgia comes from PTSD. And women get it more because so many women have been sexually assaulted. So I think that rather than being driven by fear, and perhaps that's really the message, is to find a way to bridge that, find a way to face the fear and say, hey, thank you. Good to see you. Now step aside and move through it and work towards a common goal that we can all agree upon. And I'm not saying peace is any huge lofty goal. I'm saying we don't kill anybody. And peace doesn't make anything easier. It makes it all much more difficult. And yet it puts us in a position where we have to speak. We have to deal with each other. And we don't have the option anymore of just pulling out a gun and shooting the person. I mean, personally, I'm for gun control. I'm also for being able to shoot a gun because I can do that and I enjoy doing that. But I also think that if you own a gun, you're responsible for whatever happens with that gun, and therefore you need to keep it very, very safe. And I had a whole nother point here.
I know it's amazing when you start.
That's another soapbox. I keep just jumping from one.
Yeah, you keep bringing up all these different great points and whatnot. It's fun to have these conversations. You never know where to begin, especially like we've never met or had any conversations really before. So we're also at the same time trying to get to know each other as well. And
exactly.
If do you think like we'd be able to even have this conversation right now if we would have met in say a divided Facebook group where we're having debates and things, you know, it seems like the atmosphere when you're talking to somebody versus when you're just using text over the internet is a whole different thing.
Well, the sad thing is that because she organized a women's march that followed the other one, she's already going to be labeled with that group, even though she is clearly has elements that define her march as their own, separate from the main one that we saw back in March. Right. So, I mean, I think it's if it was in that sort of social media type situation, she'd be labeled like one of them. You'd be clearly from her answers so far, she might have some of the goals that align with them, but she's clearly different as well.
Well, and I'll take that as a compliment.
Oh, it was. And
I'll also say thank you. I also say the indivisible groups are now, while they started out to be a resistance group, it is now.
Which group do you mean?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, which group do you mean? No, the indivisible group. Okay.
The Indivisible Group.
Right. Sorry.
That's okay. It's all brand new concept, so I get it. But it was a resistance force. That was their idea. Was we're against. You know, right now there's one Republican United States representative from Oregon, only one, and they happen to be in my district. Mm-hmm. So that's fun, but the way we are now seeing it, and I just went to an Indivisible Leaders, retreat. There were a small. Well, we have 20 counties, and we're hoping for representation for all 20, and there were only represented 12 there, so got some work to do. But because a lot of them didn't come out because they're afraid for their lives.
That seems to be a common theme on both sides. It seems to be a huge common theme that I've heard a lot. Is people are afraid to say what is on their mind, or they're afraid to stand up and represent what they believe in and things like that, because they're afraid that the other side is going to attack them. And
well, and so I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm
I
really
was
good
just
at cutting.
yeah.
Off.
I was just gonna say it seems like there are obviously more than two sides to everything. There's all these different nuances. Like, typically if I was to just see you as the leader of a women's march, most people are going to look at that and say, well, then since she's that, she's also this, and this and that. But
Right, which is exactly what you expected.
but that's like putting you in the other category. Like you're the other. You are the enemy, and these are the attributes I'm going to associate you with, and this is who you are. Even though I've not taken the time to meet you, and now I'm scared of you because I've got this other group telling me that you're the enemy and they want to hurt you. It's kind of scary.
Oh, you're scared for me now. That's awesome.
Well, I think you're okay right now. You seem like you're in a pretty safe environment, but just in general,
I'm always okay.
It seems like there's this force, which I'm getting ready to put together this huge article that's talking about like all these different divides, all these different black versus white and rich versus poor and Muslim versus immigrant versus nationalist, and all of these different things are not. None of them are as big as everybody wants to make them out to be. That it seems like there's this force that's continuously trying to drive that wedge deeper and deeper and make these two opposing sides see each other as the other. And it really bothers me, like on a visceral level, this divide that seems to be, I know a lot of people want to make Trump out to be this evil guy, but I don't think he's the problem. I think he's more of a symptom of a problem. He's like the end result of what happens when you keep dividing people and you keep pushing that wedge.
The problem with this particular symptom is we no longer have health care. 24 million Americans are about to lose their health care. We have used the largest bomb we have ever used anywhere other than
largest
on
non-nuclear.
I'm sorry, before going nuclear, and he has not. He doesn't think that that's off the table. It's not. That's like tomorrow. He doesn't care. I mean, he is a racist, misogynist. I mean, talk about having to label somebody. But when there is a clinical diagnosis for narcissism, you have to go, wow, that's our president.
And where's this clinical diagnosis?
That's not okay.
You said there's a clinical diagnosis of narcissism?
There is a clinical diagnosis for being a narcissist, but I could pull it up if you wanted me to, but that would take time. So
yeah, you don't have to now. If you just want to send us the link later on, that'd be interesting to look at.
No, it's frightening, and to have a man who is a predator, a vocal predator. I mean, oh my God, he doesn't care that he has assaulted women, and so many people don't care that he has assaulted women because it's so ordinary in our society. And I think that it's time that we see that as a problem. And there's so many things that are going on that we need to see as a problem, and we're not, because the next thing is shinier. It's like we are all worried about healthcare because that just happened. Then, oh wait, let's fire Comey so that we have something different to talk about, and it just keeps happening like that.
I totally agree. There's a number of issues that people aren't seeing right now, and it almost seems like that element of otherness that I was talking about just a minute ago, that both sides have been led to believe that the other side is worse than they actually are, or things are blown up out of proportion to seem bigger than they actually are, and everybody gets all worked up in the news cycle. Like you said, if it bleeds, it leads, and everything just gets like this crazy, chaotic environment we have to deal in. And then, a couple of weeks from now, everybody's forgotten about it. We're on to the next shiny object,
Well, it's because when they do that, it's all a matter of desensitization towards certain subjects. Yeah, it's a big thing for a week, but then, it ain't nothing. Okay, 2-3 U.S. military died over in Iraq or Afghanistan a few weeks ago. It's a big thing for a few days, and we moved on from it. Because all this stuff is constantly hitting you 24/7, you do become desensitized to certain issues.
Exactly. And there's so many issues right now to choose from. What soapbox do you want to be on? Because they're all open for grabs. I think that the best thing that can happen, getting back to, where I stand and what I believe, the best thing that can happen for because of this symptom that is in the White House is that we do all come together, that we have more conversations like this. I know that you expected for us to be battling through this, and we're not. And it's nothing like that. So it's really, really interesting. And there's another kind of part of standing in your truth, and that's one of the things I do with life coaching. That is my primary goal, is to support people in doing that for themselves. First of all, knowing their truth, and then standing there and being able to speak it. And that is so difficult, especially for women. And it is so very, very important and needs to be valued. And my part in the world, and I do this, it's not, the Women's March, again, was a symptom of who I am, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, I didn't expect there to be a lot of people to show up, truly. I mean, we really did plan it a Wednesday night, and it happened on Saturday. I expected to show up to that parking lot that I directed everyone to, and there'd be 8 other people there, and maybe their husbands being drugged behind them, you know?
I've seen events like that for sure.
People in that parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was absolutely overwhelming. And I've done this work for a long time. This is who I am. This is what I do. And so I'm really fortunate that I was prepared and I was able to stand up and speak and be understood and be heard and all of that. So the Women's March was simply a vehicle to the next thing, and then the next thing. And then hopefully we'll be able to have a lot more discussions like this and see that here's this woman who gets up on her soapbox after soapbox after soapbox, and yells so that other people can whisper. The more we stand up and speak, the more people are going to be able to speak up themselves. Otherwise, they're going to be afraid, and they're going to be captured by their fear.
Well, you said something interesting that stood out to me and what you were saying. When you're coaching, you talk about people need to stand up for their truth. One of the things that we focus on hugely here is the pursuit of truth, reason, evidence, empirical proof and things like that to back up claims. And I was that phrasing just seems. I wanted to push back on that just a little bit, because it seems like, to me, truth is either it is true or it is not true. Like that. Can you break apart that phrase, your truth, versus
absolutely
like the truth of reality? Well, does that make? I know we're getting a little digging deeper in the weeds here for this one.
No, it's all that's fantastic.
I'm really curious what that means when you say your truth versus your
everyone
experience.
has a different perception. Okay, I like to say that when you're sitting in a pew next to somebody in church, you have a different belief system than that person sitting next to you. And you do. And everyone has their personal belief system. And, how we talk about, the world revolves around, you see a little 8-year-old kid, the world revolves around him. But I do think that in some ways, the world revolves around all of us. Like if you take a balloon that's not blown up, and you take a Sharpie pen and put a dot on that balloon, and the balloon blows up around that dot. So it really does, we are the center of our own universe, and we get to create that thing. However, so our truth is really going to be different than someone else's truth. Whether or not, this is a lovely topic, because there are other truths that are no longer true. I collect biology books, I mean, the whole Pluto is a planet thing, right? And then there are so many things that we grew up knowing as, oh, this is true, is true, is true. The only truth is mathematical. The only absolute thing that will not change is 2 + 2 = 4 and the prime numbers. Everything is subject to bullshit. Everything else can be malleable and changed, and it's all.
So would it be clear to say that maybe the how you're trying to describe this here is like the truth in that person's individual experiences?
So more like instead of your truth, seems like it'd be more accurate to say your experience or your belief would be.
I don't like the word belief, because people use that word in ways that it's like people say, I don't believe in evolution. Well, honey, there's no belief in evolution. Evolution is, and believing is like that idea of a leap of faith, and I think the only place that that's valid is when you choose to spend your life with someone, because you don't know what the next 50 years are going to bring. And if you choose someone for that time, it's really a crapshoot. Yes.
So you wouldn't put, if I believed in, or if I said I don't believe in evolution, that wouldn't necessarily fall into the category of my truth. Is that?
No, I think that it would, and it also would inform me to your education.
So if I would stand up for my truth, and what you're saying is people need to stand up for their truth and learn how to voice their truths and their opinions. So more like it sounds like you're very in favor of like the public discourse, like two people of opposing opinions would get up on stage and have a healthy debate back and forth, and may the better arguments win. Is that fair to say?
Yes, as long as they're fair arguments based in reality.
And no guns involved, nobody trying to pepper spray and
right.
No,
and so
nobody
so
hitting each other in the heads with bike locks and things like that. Yeah.
Right. Like when Bill Nye had that debate with the evangelical guy over evolution, it's like
that was fun.
There's nothing evangelical dude could say that was anything like truth. There is not there. It's just not there. That's not what you find in the Bible. And not that the Bible isn't true for people, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers. And I know that Daniel, anyway, is an atheist. I did see that interview.
He's the Antichrist.
Bro, she's spying on me.
Well,
I feel like you know me at such a deep level.
I do. It's amazing. So the thing about belief and understanding is really, really interesting. And if you have people who go to, like if you talk to a priest, okay, priests are really interesting, and they're different than any other clergy because they actually went to college to be a priest. Okay, they know about all of the religions, about all of the belief systems, and if they wash out, it's because they became an atheist along the way because they know so much.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that do the work to understand what religion is come out of it without religion. And with a grander understanding of humanity and who we are in the world. So it's and I'm not saying that people of faith can't be intellectual or that there's something wrong with them or whatever. I just see for myself I see a different path.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, Miss Spenser. I feel like we've covered a lot of good ground and gotten a little more insight and to know your perspective and whatnot. Did you have any other questions for us before we leave, or any kind of or anything you'd like to push out there or draw people's attention to?
Well, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that the one thing that can come from this symptom is that we can all come together, that we really can all see a honest, open dialogue and create peace. And peace doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Peace means it's going to get harder. And, if you want to go out and kill somebody, do it with a baseball bat. It's way better than a gun. That way you're actually part of the experience. So
What in
that's
the
way
world?
that's my gun
Just to be
control.
clear, we do not advocate beating people to death with baseball bats, just so you can experience your.
I do not advocate anyone killing anyone. My point is,
Listen,
it's-
dude.
She's just basically saying, don't be a coward about it. If you're going to do it, be in the moment and get it in.
Listen, dude, I'm going to kill you with this baseball bat. I just need you to understand this is my truth, and there's nothing you can say or do. Oh, boy. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Alrighty.
Thank you so
Yeah, if y'all want to connect with Miss Alex on the interwebs, you can check out her website through wordswithwings.com to kind of get a better idea of what she's got going on. She is a life coach, and by the sound of it, sounds like she's probably got a few great things to say. And
A few directions to put you in, to put you on the right path.
Lord knows we need it.
Lord knows.
That's,
Y'all have a great
That's
day.
funny.
Thank you so
The
much.
atheist says, "Lord knows."
Right? It's part of the vernacular. What are you going to do?
I know it. You can't help it.
Can't get away from it.